Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Anna, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend, Mark. We are so happy to have you here at Daily English Dialogues. How's it going today, Mark? You look like you've got a lot on your mind.
Isn't that obvious? Hi, Anna. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm doing okay, but I've been feeling a bit off lately. You know those days where you wake up and you just feel like you're missing a piece of the puzzle?
I know exactly what you mean. It's that subtle, underlying anxiety. What triggered it for you this time?
Well, it's the classic culprit, social media. I was scrolling through my feed over the weekend, just a lazy Sunday morning, coffee in hand, and it felt like a relentless wave of everyone else's achievements. Within 5 minutes, I saw a former classmate of mine post about buying their first home, a colleague announcing a fancy new promotion, and even a younger cousin who just finished their master's degree.
Oh, the triple threat: the house, the job, and the degree. That's enough to make anyone's morning coffee taste a bit bitter.
Exactly. And the thing is, I'm genuinely happy for them. I really am. But there's this nagging sensation in the back of my head that asks, wait, what have I been doing for the last 3 years? It's like I'm standing still on a moving walkway while everyone else is sprinting past me.
That's such a vivid way to put it. That stuck feeling, or what experts often call the comparison trap, is what we're diving into today. It's that internal voice telling you that you're somehow lagging behind a schedule that isn't even real.
Right. It's like there's this invisible life manual that everyone else received at birth, and I somehow missed the delivery. I'm looking around at 30, thinking I should have more boxes checked by now.
It's a heavy weight to carry, Mark, but I think it's important to acknowledge that this feeling is incredibly common, especially in our 20s and 30s. We're in this transitional period where the paths of our peers start to diverge wildly. In high school, everyone is doing the same thing, but after that, the road splits in a million directions.
That's a good point. In school, you have grades and semesters to tell you if you're on track. In the real world, those markers disappear, so we start looking at other people to see if we're doing it right.
Precisely. And today, we want to unpack why we feel this way, how the digital world amplifies these insecurities, and most importantly, how we can stop feeling like life is a race we're losing.
I'm ready, because honestly, logically, I know life isn't a marathon, but emotionally, it feels like I'm at the back of the pack and the finish line keeps moving further away.
You know, Mark, you mentioned that invisible life manual. It makes me wonder, where do these chapters even come from? Why do we all seem to agree that by 25 you should be settled, or by 35 you should have reached a certain peak?
It's fascinating, isn't it? I think a lot of it is intergenerational baggage. We're essentially living in a 21st century economy with a 20th century mindset. Our parents or grandparents lived in a world where you could join a company at 22, stay there for 40 years, and buy a house on a single salary. The timeline was predictable because the world was more stable.
That's a brilliant point. The stability our predecessors had allowed for a very linear progression. But today, we have the gig economy, career pivots, and global shifts that they never had to navigate. Yet we still judge ourselves by their metrics. It's like trying to play a high-tech video game using the rules of a board game from the 1950s.
Exactly. And it's not just our parents, it's the cultural script. Think of every romantic comedy or coming-of-age movie we've ever seen. There is always a climax or a big achievement by a certain age. If you aren't living that movie-perfect life, you feel like a supporting character in your own story.
I feel that deeply. There's also this concept in psychology called social clocks. It's the idea that society has an unspoken timetable for when life events should occur. If you hit those marks on time, you get social approval. If you're late, people start asking those awkward questions at family dinners.
Oh, don't even get me started on the family dinners. So, Mark, still in that same apartment? Or when are you going to start thinking about a real career path? They don't mean to be hurtful, but it reinforces the idea that there is a correct way to age.
It creates a lot of internalized ageism. We start to think that our value decreases if we haven't achieved X, Y, or Z by a certain birthday. But who decided these dates? Most of these milestones are arbitrary. Why is 30 the scary number? Why not 32 or 28?
It's just a round number that we've collectively decided is a deadline. But when you actually look at the world, the most interesting people I know didn't find their groove until their 40s or 50s. They took scenic routes.
The scenic route. I love that. We're so focused on the destination, the house, the title, the marriage, that we view the time spent wandering as a waste. But isn't the wandering where the actual character building happens?
It is. But it's hard to remember that when you're stuck in traffic and everyone in the fast lane seems to be flying past you. We need to find a way to dismantle this timeline entirely.
I agree. We need to stop seeing life as a series of hurdles to jump over and start seeing it as a canvas. And on a canvas, you don't paint from left to right in a straight line. You add layers, you change colors, and sometimes you paint over an entire section because you want to try something new.
Speaking of the fast lane, Anna, I think the biggest engine driving those cars is social media. It's like we have a front row seat to everyone's best moments 24 hours a day.
You hit the nail on the head. It's been called the algorithm of envy. These platforms are literally designed to show us the most engaging content, which usually means the most extreme successes. We don't see the average Tuesday of our friends. We see the promotion, the brand new apartment, or the vacation in Bali.
Right, and the problem is our brains aren't naturally wired to handle that much information. Historically, we only compared ourselves to our immediate neighbors. If the guy next door had a slightly better harvest, you felt a bit of pressure. But now, we're comparing our regular lives to the top 1% of the entire world.
That is a profound point, Mark. We've gone from keeping up with the Joneses to keeping up with the Kardashians. It's an impossible standard. I often catch myself looking at life coaches on Instagram who are 22 years old, living in penthouses, and telling me I'm not manifesting my goals hard enough. It makes me feel like I'm failing at a game I didn't even sign up to play.
Oh, those hustle culture influencers are the worst for your mental health. They promote this idea of optimization, that every second of your day must be productive. If you aren't monetizing your hobbies or working out at 5 a.m., you're wasting your potential. It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It really is, and there's a technical term for what we're doing. Upward social comparison. This is when we compare ourselves to people we perceive as better or more successful. While it can sometimes be motivating, when it's constant, it leads to deep dissatisfaction and a distorted sense of reality.
Distorted is the key word there. I read a study recently that said people often feel worse after spending time on social media, even if they were looking at friends' posts. It's because we subconsciously perform a life audit. We tally up their wins against our current struggles.
Exactly. We forget that social media is a curated gallery. It's like looking at a professional painting and being upset that your sketches don't look as polished. But those sketches are where the real life is. The messy parts, the I'm not sure what I'm doing parts, those never make it to the grid.
So how do we break the spell? I've tried digital detoxes where I delete the apps for a week, but the moment I reinstall them, the feeling of being behind rushes back in like a flood.
I think it's about digital literacy. We have to consciously remind ourselves this is a performance. I've started a habit where whenever I see a success post, I mentally add a caption that says, "And I've also had many bad days that I'm not showing you." It humanizes the person on the screen.
I like that. It's about stripping away the glossy finish. I also think we need to be more intentional about who we follow. I've started following people who are honest about their failures, writers who talk about their 100 rejection letters, or entrepreneurs who admit they went broke before they succeeded.
That's such a healthy shift. When we see the struggle, the success feels less like a judgment of our own lives and more like a testament to persistence. It moves us away from "why not me" toward "oh, it takes time for everyone."
Exactly. If the algorithm is going to feed us content, let's make sure it's feeding us reality, not just a fantasy that makes us feel like we're running out of time.
Before we tackle FOMO, I think we have to address this myth of the straight line. Mark, you mentioned changing your career at 28. That's a massive pivot. Did you feel like you were falling back to the starting line?
Oh, absolutely. I felt like a freshman again while my friends were becoming senior consultants. But then I realized progress isn't a ladder, it's more like an ocean. Sometimes you're riding a wave, and sometimes you're just treading water waiting for the next tide to come in.
I love that imagery. We often mistake treading water for failure, but if you're not treading water, you're sinking. That middle period, the messy middle, is where the real growth happens. It's where you develop the resilience you'll need for the next big leap.
That resilience is exactly what you need when FOMO hits. Anna, you mentioned earlier that feeling behind is subjective, but how do we actually handle that physical pang of anxiety when we see a group of friends doing something big that we're not part of?
You're right, it really is a pang. It's almost visceral. FOMO is rooted in our evolutionary need to belong to a tribe. In the past, being left out meant you were at risk. Today, being left out of a weekend trip or a professional seminar feels like a threat to our identity.
Exactly. I remember last year, a bunch of my former colleagues went to this massive tech conference in San Francisco. My LinkedIn was flooded with photos of them networking and attending these high-level workshops. I was sitting at my desk in my pajamas eating cereal, and I felt irrelevant, like the world was moving on without me.
Irrelevant. That's a strong word, but it perfectly captures the fear. We think that if we're not in the room, we're being forgotten. But here's the secret. You can't be in every room. By saying yes to one thing, you are naturally saying no to 1,000 other things.
That's the opportunity cost of life, right?
Precisely. So instead of focusing on what you're missing, you have to focus on what you're choosing. This is where JOMO comes in. It's the joy of missing out. It's about finding peace in your current space. If I'm at home resting, I'm not missing the party, I'm choosing my mental health.
I've been trying to reframe it like that. Instead of thinking, I'm not there, I think, I am here, and here is exactly where I need to be right now. But it's hard when you feel like your peers are reaching level 10 and you're still grinding at level 2.
But Mark, level 10 for them might be a level 1 for you in terms of happiness. We often chase milestones that we don't even actually want just because we're afraid of the social stigma of not having them. Have you ever reached a goal and realized it didn't actually make you feel better?
All the time. I worked so hard for a specific job title a few years ago. I thought it would solve my feeling behind problem. I got the title, I got the raise, and within 2 weeks I was looking at the next person above me and feeling behind all over again. It's a treadmill.
It's the hedonic treadmill. We adapt to our successes so quickly that they stop giving us joy, and we immediately start looking for the next thing to catch up to. The only way to win is to get off the treadmill.
So JOMO is basically the off switch?
In a way, yes, it's the realization that you're missing out is actually an investment. If you miss a party to work on your YouTube channel or miss a promotion to spend more time with your family, you're not losing. You're just allocating your resources differently.
I like that. It turns a loss into a strategic choice. It makes me feel like I'm in the driver's seat of my life again, rather than just being dragged along by everyone else's expectations.
Exactly. You are the protagonist of your own story, and every good story has chapters where the hero is just laying low, reflecting, and preparing for the next act. You're not behind. You're just in a quiet chapter.
I really love that quiet chapter analogy, Anna. It makes the stillness feel productive rather than wasteful. But let's get practical. For a listener who is sitting there right now, feeling that heavy pressure in their chest, what is the first step to actually shifting that perspective?
The first thing I always recommend is a life audit. We do audits for businesses and taxes, but we rarely do them for our own happiness. Sit down with a piece of paper and list all the things you feel behind on. Be brutally honest. Is it your salary, your relationship status, your fitness?
Okay, I've got my list. It's actually quite long. Now what?
Now, look at each item and ask, whose goal is this? Draw two columns, label one internal and the other external. An internal goal is something that truly brings you joy or fulfillment. An external goal is something you feel you should want because of society, your parents, or your Instagram feed.
That is a game changer. I realized recently that my desire for a senior job title was almost 90% external. I wanted the status so people would stop asking me what I do. But when I thought about the actual day-to-day work of a manager, I hated it. I actually prefer being a doer.
Exactly. You were feeling behind in a race you didn't even want to win. Once you cross off the external goals, your list becomes much smaller and much more manageable. You aren't behind, you've just been trying to run 10 different races at once.
So once we've narrowed it down to our true internal goals, how do we stop the comparison engine from starting up again the next time we see someone succeeding in those specific areas?
This is where you practice micro wins. When we feel behind, we tend to look at the massive gap between where we are and where we want to be. It's overwhelming. To fix this, you have to shrink your horizon. Don't look at the next 5 years, look at the next 5 hours.
I've heard of this. It's like the power of now, right?
Precisely. If you feel behind in your career, don't worry about the promotion today. Your micro win is simply updating one paragraph of your resume or reaching out to one person for a coffee chat.
When you stack these tiny victories, you build momentum, and momentum is the natural enemy of feeling stuck. I find that momentum is such a psychological relief. Even if I haven't reached the milestone, the fact that I'm moving makes the anxiety disappear.
That's the progress principle. Humans are actually happier when they are making small, consistent progress toward a goal than when they actually achieve the goal itself. The feeling behind sensation is usually just a signal from your brain that you've stopped moving toward your values, not society's.
I also think we should mention the 10-year test. When I'm spiraling about being late to something, I ask myself, in 10 years, will it matter if I achieved this at age 30 or age 33?
Oh, I love that.
Usually, the answer is no. In the grand scheme of a 70 or 80-year life, a 3-year delay is just a blink of an eye. We are so zoomed in on the present that we lose our sense of scale.
We really do. I really want to linger on that introduction idea, Mark. We have this obsession with early bloomers, the child prodigies, the tech founders who become billionaires at 19. But there is actually a lot of scientific and psychological evidence that being a late bloomer is not just okay, it's often an advantage.
That's a bold claim. Tell me more. How could starting later be an advantage?
Well, think about the brain. Our prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for complex decision-making and impulse control, isn't even fully developed until our late 20s. So many of the decisions we make at 18 or 21 are made before our hardware is even finished.
That explains a lot of my choices in my early 20s. So you're saying that when we find our path later in life, we're actually better equipped to handle it?
Exactly. You have more executive function. You've had more time to sample different flavors of life. There's a great book called Range by David Epstein. He argues that people who have a sampling period where they try many different things and fail eventually outperform specialists because they have a broader perspective.
That makes me feel so much better about my wandering years. I used to call it being lost, but maybe it was just my sampling period. I was collecting data on what I don't like.
Precisely. And the world is full of examples of this. We talked about Vera Wang and Julia Child, but think about Samuel L. Jackson. He didn't get his big breakout role until he was 43. Before that, he was just a working actor, probably feeling behind his peers every single day.
43? Wow, if he had given up at 35 because he felt behind, we would have missed out on one of the greatest actors of our time. It really proves that the deadline is self-imposed.
It really is. There's also the story of Colonel Sanders, the founder of KFC. He didn't start the franchise until he was 65. He spent his whole life failing at different jobs. He was a lawyer, a gas station attendant, a railroad worker. He had a lifetime of failures that were actually just ingredients for his eventual success.
It's almost like some people need more time to cook. If you take a cake out of the oven too early because you're in a rush, it's not going to be good. You have to let it stay in until it's actually ready.
What a perfect metaphor, Mark. Some of us are cakes, and some of us are, I don't know, quick bake cookies. The cookies are done in 10 minutes, but the cake takes an hour. Both are delicious, but they require different timelines.
I think I'm definitely a slow cook cake. But seriously, this shift in mindset changes everything. It turns delay into development. It turns stagnation into incubation.
Incubation? That's a sophisticated word. It means a period of development before something is born or manifests. If you're a listener feeling stuck right now, maybe you're not stuck. Maybe you're just in incubation. You're gathering the skills, the heartaches, and the wisdom that will make your bloom so much more spectacular when it finally happens.
And when it does happen, you'll be stable enough to actually enjoy it because you'll know who you are. You won't be a 19-year-old trying to figure it out under a spotlight. You'll be a grounded adult who knows exactly what they've worked for. This has been such an enlightening conversation, Anna. I feel much lighter just talking about it.
Me too, Mark. I hope our listeners feel a bit more at ease as well. Remember, you are not behind in life. You are simply on your own unique timeline.
Well said. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Daily English Dialogues. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's one area where you felt behind and how are you redefining it?
We read all your comments and love hearing your stories. Thank you for spending your time with us today. Keep practicing your English and keep being kind to yourself.
Until next time, stay curious and keep growing.
Bye, everyone.